Welcome to a fresh edition of Epic Mornings. Epic Fellowship Church is a new teaching ministry based out of Rocky Mount, North Carolina, that is empowering people in Christ. Epic Mornings is the perfect start to an amazing day. Grab a cup of coffee, get your Bible, and prepare to be uplifted and encouraged. Now, let's get into the living Word of God. Epic Mornings. Say hello to your host.
Hey, good morning, Epic Fellowship Church and friends. It's good to see you as always. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Observance Day for those of you that may have it off or just took it off, because there are people that take it off. Okay, we're going into Proverbs chapter 15, and I entitled this, How Are You Speaking? Because the very first verse comes out the gate. A gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words makes tempers flare. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge appealing, but the mouth of a fool belches out foolishness. I thought, okay, so we get started talking about how we speak to others, and even how we speak to ourselves. You know, sometimes when things don't go the way we want, or we don't feel like we're doing what we should be doing, any reason, we can sometimes become really sharp in our conversation. And somebody may ask us something, and because we're at our end, at our wits' end, feeling some type of way, all of those things, we can give a harsh answer. So out the gate, Solomon says, listen, a gentle answer deflects anger, and the tongue of the wise makes knowledge appealing. When you're speaking and you're speaking to people, do you make knowledge appealing? Or are you belching out foolishness? Or are you talking down to someone? Are you making them feel less than because you're talking about a thing? The Lord is watching everywhere, keeping his eye on both the evil and the good. We already know that he sees all, right? He also knows us well enough to know what we're up to. He knows us well enough to know what we're thinking, and what we possibly may say. Because once again, Solomon comes back in verse 4 and he says, gentle words are a tree of life, and deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. Back to gentle conversation. I can remember that there was a time that someone could say something to me, and depending upon the tone, it depended upon how I accepted it, or if I received it at all. So Solomon is saying the same thing. Gentle words are a tree of life. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. How sharp are you answering your kids? I know they can get on your nerves, but how are you responding to the questions that they ask? Are you answering them in a tone that they at least will accept the knowledge? Now, we know that sometimes kids don't hear what we say to them, and somebody else can come along and say the very same thing. We even still do that as adults, but we're working on that. Only a fool despises a parent's discipline. Whoever learns from correction is wise. Can you remember a time when you were a child and you got in trouble for a thing, but it wasn't even you doing the thing? It just happened to be some other children available, and you said, it was not me. Still, the discipline was necessary, because if it had been you, wouldn't you want somebody to show you a better way so that you don't operate like this for the rest of your life? I never thought about it until I got to be an adult, an older adult, that discipline is necessary. Structure is a must. Boundaries, you can never really live effectively without them. So as children, we need all of that. And it all is a part of a parent's discipline. Good morning, Minister Stacy. There's treasure in the house of the godly, but the earnings of the wicked bring trouble. The lips of the wise give good advice, and the heart of a fool has none to give. He keeps coming back to those lips. He keeps coming back to our conversations. He keeps coming back to how are you talking? How are you speaking? So hence, that's why I named this, how are you speaking? Because he just keeps bringing that back up. He keeps bringing us back. The Lord detests the sacrifice of the wicked, but he delights in the prayers of the upright. Are you praying? As the upright, are you praying? The Lord detests the way of the wicked, but he loves those who pursue godliness. Are you pursuing godliness so that you don't end up in the way of the wicked? Whoever abandons the right path will be severely disciplined. Whoever hates correction will die. I think about how you can have a teenager. When I read that, how you can have a teenager that really doesn't care for your correction, doesn't really care for your instructions. And we know we have all had those moments. But because he doesn't care, he or she doesn't care for your correction, they end up in a situation that could cause several things to die, not necessarily physical death, but they can lose their privileges. They could actually lose their life, but they can mess up their educational career. They could do harm to someone else. Something happens that causes a death in their lives because they chose not to follow your correction. Even death and destruction hold no secrets from the Lord. How much more does he know the human heart? He created the human heart, so he knows it in and out. He created this whole body and he designed it to work as a well-oiled machine. A lot of times we don't take care of it, so it doesn't always end up the way that it should. Mockers hate to be corrected, so they stay away from the wise. A glad heart makes a happy face, and a broken heart crushes the spirit. How many times have you encountered someone who looks as if they do not have a glad heart? Because we can, we wear that on our face. And you were able to change that by bringing your glad heart and happy face. Have you ever gone to work and someone may have had a bad night or they had a lot of things going on and you just smiled and said good morning and it changed how their morning looked for them? A wise person is hungry for knowledge while the fool feeds on trash. Immediately, when I read that verse, I thought about television. I thought about television. I could actually read my Bible, read a book, read something instead of watching television. Because television, some of it can be considered trash. So, are we gaining more knowledge that can be helpful in our spiritual lives, in our business, in our personal lives? Or are we watching shows on television that could be considered trash, such as reality shows? Um, what is that thing? Hip hop, love and hip hop in all them different places. All of those things. Would that be valuable? How does that add to my life? I think sometimes we need to just take this time to stop and say, listen, I want to watch Family Business. I want to binge watch Family Business or the Black Hamptons. Two things that I actually happen to watch. Yeah, Television, right. But we like it. Minister Stacy, we like Television. But anyway, how is binge watching this show going to benefit my life? Any area of my life. So when we're hungry for knowledge, it needs to be something that's proven and something that can provide us help. Okay. And we don't want to be feeding on trash. You might have a snack, but we don't want to feed on it, okay? For the despondent, every day brings trouble. For the happy heart, life is a continual feast. We can tell by our sizes that some of us have a continual feast. Life, that happy heart, got us eating good regularly. But because you have a happy life and you're feeding on it regularly, you can help the despondent stop being in that type of day that brings trouble, that type of thing that brings trouble. But in order to do that, we have to be observant and we have to talk to people. We've got to learn how to talk to people and let them know what it is that we know and let them know why we're always happy like we are. We as Christendom and kingdom citizens have to do a better job of being excited about the very thing that keeps us each and every day and share that with those that we encounter. But how you speaking? How are you speaking? Better to have little with the fear of the Lord than to have treasure and inner turmoil. A hot tempered person starts fights. A cool tempered person stops them. We actually had a conversation at dinner yesterday that could really speak to this. How siblings fight each other almost out of the womb. They're fighting each other for whatever reason and have literally gotten into physical fights. But a cooler head can prevail. So, what can we do to eliminate the fight? What can we do to change the outcome of a discrepancy or a problem? A lazy person's way is blocked with briars, but the path of the upright is an open highway. Sensible children bring joy to their father, and foolish children despise their mother. A lazy person is a problem for everybody, and they can block the way to the open highway, to the better thing at work. They could be the reason that you can't get to the bonus because they're not doing their part on the project. There are just so many ways that we could look at that. How do we change that? How do we do things differently? And how do we handle it when we got a lazy person on the project? Plans go wrong for lack of advice. Many advisors bring success. Everyone enjoys a fitting reply. It is wonderful to say the right thing at the right time. Once again, he comes back to what are you saying? What are you speaking? How can you help things stay on an even keel? The right thing, saying the right thing at the right time can make the major difference in someone's life. The path of life leads upward for the wise, and they leave the grave behind. The Lord tears down the house of the proud, but he protects the property of widows. The Lord detests evil plans, but he delights in pure words. Once again, we're back to these words. Solomon just keeps coming back to what are you talking about? What are you speaking? What are you saying? Are you saying the right thing at the right time? Are you bringing pure words to people? The heart of the godly thinks carefully before speaking. The mouth of the wicked overflows with evil words. I can speak for me. I will take a little bit longer responding these days. But when I was younger, baby, you got what you got. You just got what you got. I ain't think about it. I didn't run it through any kind of filters. None of that. You got what you got. But now I understand so much better that I need to measure my words, but I also need to season my words. And then there are going to be occasions where I don't even use my words because anything that I can think of is not going to be edifying to you, me, or God. So I choose to not say anything. That's a learned behavior that you have to practice. regularly and consistently. So the heart of the godly thinks carefully. That's right, Stacy. Silence is wisdom. Sometimes you just have to. And of course, there are some people that are going to walk behind you going, "Did you hear what I said? You're not going to say nothing? You're not going to talk to me? I'm talking to you." That's when you leave the situation and continue to be quiet. Because I immediately think about how many times I have used my words to literally tear somebody up. I know that in my past life, I've left some people bleeding in the corner because they were walking behind me saying, "You didn't hear what I said. You said," and I didn't have the resolve, and I didn't have the ability to just stop and say, "I'm gonna swallow all of this that I got going on inside of me right now." Because if I say any of this, you're gonna be mortally wounded, and I won't be able to take it back, and I'll be stuck there. That part. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayers of the righteous. We already know that Solomon is adamant about this. Listen, you got to get yourself in a righteous position so that the Lord hears you, the Lord works within you, the Lord helps you with these words, so that you can also know that God is close to you versus being far from you. A cheerful look brings joy to the heart. Good news makes for good health. Do you come in the morning smiling, "Good morning, how you doing?" And just keep it, you just keep moving. Sometimes you don't have to engage in long conversations. I think too often we want to wait for the response, then have a whole conversation. No, "Good morning." And sometimes I just say, "Good morning," and keep walking. But even that can change some people's face. I did an experiment where I just kind of walked around. I was about my day, and I just smiled and said, "How you doing?" to people. And they just kind of like, "Hi," because they weren't expecting anyone to notice them. Do you know that there are people that are depressed and they don't feel seen? And just smiling and giving a salutation can literally change the way they view themselves and the whole day. And that could have been the day that they had decided that might be their last day. But because you smiled and you spoke to them, it brought a smile to their face. And they were like, "Okay, someone does see me." If you listen to constructive criticism, you will be at home among the wise. If you reject discipline, you only harm yourself. But if you listen to correction, you grow in understanding. Fear of the Lord teaches wisdom, and humility precedes honor. Constructive criticism, spoken at the right time with the right tone, can change your life. I can remember I was a person that was easily offended. So anything you said to me, it didn't matter how you said it, didn't matter what you seasoned it with, it didn't matter. I was offended. But that was because I had some things going on inside of me. But later, as I got better, I realized that everybody wasn't out to get me. Everybody wasn't out to cause me harm. That there were people that actually were giving me constructive criticism because they saw something in me and they wanted to get the best out of me. It took me a minute, but I got it. Be a person that offers constructive criticism. Be a person before you even give criticism. Be a person that gives them their kudos. Be a person that acknowledges them, and be that type of person so that when constructive criticism comes, they're not immediately offended because they already know that you are in their corner. It's just like your children. You've got to give them kudos before you give them some of the things that they need to correct. Yes, you still have to correct them because it's your job to discipline your children. And it's a job we have taken very, very lightly of late. But it's our job. But it's also our job to build up our children. It's also our job to give them constructive criticism. It's also our job to say, listen, I know that you had a difficult time with this particular math test, but we're going to study harder for the next one so that we can get an even better grade, because I know this frustrates you. You have to know your children in order to accomplish that. You have to spend time with them, even as adults. I still ask, when my daughter says, Mom, I need to talk to you, I still say, is this a time for me to respond, or is this just for me to listen? That way I give her the option. And I think sometimes we forget that our children are mini us. So even some of those characteristics that we had that were not so great, we may have passed down to our children. So we have to be mindful that we build them up enough so that when the time comes for correction, they're willing to hear us. And we have to love on them enough that when time comes for correction, they're willing to hear us. Because we are willing to hear God correct us, because we know that He loves us so much. He loves us so much that we're willing to even hear His correction. Rejecting discipline only causes harm to the person. You grow in understanding if you allow yourself to be disciplined and corrected. The fear of the Lord teaches us wisdom, and humility precedes honor. Fear of the Lord also teaches us how to handle our children, our spouses, our friends, anyone in every relationship. So, with that being said, how are you speaking? And we're done with chapter 15 of Proverbs. We'll see you next Monday for chapter 16. Remember, how are you speaking? How are you offering constructive criticism to those that are in your circle? Take care. Have an amazing day. Attend a breakfast, attend a rally, something for the MLK Day. Take care. Bye bye.